2011 Single Family Design Board. If Kathleen, if you could call roll, please.
Chair Dexter.
Here.
Ms. Hillary.
Here.
Bernie Branstad. Here. Brian Miller.
Here.
Fred Sweeney.
Here.
And I believe Jim will be a little late this evening.
All right, thank you. I'd like to move to public comment. Any member of the public may address the Single Family Design Board for up to 2 minutes on any subject within their jurisdiction that is not scheduled for public discussion before the board today. The total time would be, for this item, is 10 minutes. Is there anybody who would like to have public comment? Not seeing any, I'll close public comment and move to the approval of the minutes for the July 5th, 2011. May I have a motion for approval of those minutes?
I'll make that motion.
First by Bernie and seconded by Brian. And let's go item by item. There was only a couple items, actually. Item number 1 was Himino Road and Grand Avenue, that lot split. Was there any comments on those minutes? Okay. So number 2, 1020 Placido Avenue. Any comments on that? No? The third item was 3750 Maru Lane. Any comments? I had one comment on that. Under motion, it's the third item. It says study the location of the second floor element and find ways to reduce privacy impacts to the adjacent neighbors. And I think we all know what we're trying to say there. I wanted to maybe substitute enhance privacy instead of reduce privacy. If anybody has any. It's Maru Avenue, number 3. Yeah. Is there any other comments on any of those items?
Let's take away privacy to reduce impacts.
Well, enhance privacy or reduce impacts on neighbors. That's not a bad way of saying it.
Do you want to strike the word impact so it just says reduce or to enhance privacy?
No, to reduce privacy impacts. So if you take privacy to reduce impacts.
I think it's important, the word privacy, though.
Okay.
I know what you're saying,
Yeah.
and some of these other items are going to reduce the impact of the looming factor on it and everything. But does anybody else have a strong opinion either way on that? I like the word privacy. If we can word it somehow with privacy. So let's go enhance privacy unless I hear something else.
To create.
To provide privacy for the adjacent neighbors. Additional privacy.
Vague. I don't know. I kind of like it.
Which one? Which version?
The way it's written. Reduce privacy impacts on the adjacent. Or lack of privacy impacts?
Nobody's strong? I'm still going to say enhance unless somebody really objects.
Okay. All right.
Enhance privacy and get rid of
Yes. Enhance privacy on adjacent. Okay, good.
Okay, so that's that item. We had a motion, so I'll take a vote. All those in favor of it? Oh,
The rest of it.
that's a consent.
There are, and then we're.
Those. Yeah, this is full board, not consent yet.
Okay.
Okay. So everybody understand? Okay. So we'll take a vote. All those approval of the minutes as noted, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Okay. And Jim is going to abstain as well. So we're going to move to the consent calendar for July 11, 2011. May I have a motion for approval of the calendar?
I'll make that motion.
First by Denise, and seconded by? Seconded by Fred. And any discussion on that item? That's
I'll read them. in-
I don't think I have
July 11th?
those in front of me. I have A, is that where we are, on Edgewater, or which one are we on?
No,
Yeah, I need,
we'll take that.
okay, thank you.
I think there's just a couple items.
Okay, Mr.
Mr.
Chair, I'll go ahead and read them into the record before
Yes.
we take the vote.
Yes.
This is a consent agenda for Monday, July 11th, 2011. Item A, 1651 Sycamore Canyon Road, was approved as submitted of review after final. Item B, 221 Oliver Road, granted final approval as noted. And item C, 1515 Alta Vista Road, granted project design approval and final approval with NPO findings. And the items were reviewed by Brian Miller and Denise Woolery.
Thank you. So now, are there any other discussion items on those? Anything, Bernie?
I'm looking for something, but it's not on here, so that means it's a
That's for
different,
today's agenda.
different
That's
date.
next.
Okay, thank you. No, I don't have any. Thank you.
Okay, so hearing no comments, I'd like to take a vote on approval of those, of the calendar. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And abstain? I have to abstain from item number C, or letter number C. We're going to move to the consent calendar for today, July 18th. If I could have a motion for approval of the calendar.
I'll make that motion.
By Denise, first by Denise, second by Jim. And Michelle, if you could read those items into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Consent agenda for today, Monday, July 18th, 2011. Item A, 1035 Sima Linda Lane. It's approved as submitted of review after final. Item B, 722 Kaialia. Approved as submitted of review after final. Item C, 1436 Manitou Road. Approved as submitted of the review after final. Item D, 1547 Shoreline Drive was continued 1 week to consent with comments. Item E, 2521 Medcliff Road was continued indefinitely to the staff hearing officer and to return to consent. Item F, 1667 Las Canoas Road, was granted project design approval with NPO and continued indefinitely to consent with comments. Item G, 1312 North Salsaqueta Street, was granted positive comments and continued indefinitely to consent. And items were reviewed by Brian Miller and Denise Woolery.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on those items? Bernie?
Item E, 2521 Medcliff,
Okay.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it's, I know that there's a lot of concern about that, and I think it's going to go straight to consent after the hearing officer, and I'm thinking maybe it should come here. I'd like to suggest that we have a look at it.
For the full board?
For the full board, yes.
Bernie, can you make any specific recommendations as to what your concern is?
Yes, my concerns are it's a neighborhood very much in transition right now. There's a big subdivision going down. There's a lot of trees that have been cut down on that street, and they're trying to create a pedestrian sidewalk all the way from almost Mesa Lane all the way to the Douglas Preserve. But this particular place has some separate issues. It doesn't have any landscaping. It has super bright lights that I don't think conform to our guidelines, and some other issues that I know there's been some concern about. So I think it would be good if we could just all talk about it and look at it.
Okay. Mr. Chair, if I could just provide some feedback from today's meeting, and then if Brian and Denise want to jump in as well. Today, this applicant, or this project is specifically, it's kind of a multi-discretionary review process. It went through design review for fences over height in the front yard. It's going to go to the staff hearing officer for a portion of that fence to be over height within the front first 10 feet of the front setback. majority of this fence is proposed to be located in the public right-of-way, and the applicant is requesting a Public Works encroachment permit, which I spoke to via email some of the members of Public Works, and they were proposing to approve that within the next day or two. The area at today's consent, we did review the lighting. All the lighting, the floodlights are going to be removed by the owner. They are going to replace the existing lighting at the front of the property as part of the existing fence, and they're going to replace that with obscure glass and minimal wattage of lighting. And the board generally had favorable comments. I don't know if Brian or Denise, you want to add anything, and then after this discussion, the board can make a vote as to whether you want to see this at full board.
If I may, the issue the fact that it's going to Public Works, if there is going to be an extension of the sidewalk, then at that time he has to move his fence. So it's not like he's going to be able to leave it there, if the sidewalk improvement happens.
But from what she said, it sounded, I don't know.
Well, it's an
Heard it wrong,
encroachment
but-
permit, so that means that it's okay for it to, that's where the old fence was, is where the new one is now. So it was just covered with all this foliage.
And I think I can clarify, we couldn't determine the location of the fence. That's going to be up to transportation.
Yeah.
Basically, all we could do was decide the aesthetics of the fence itself. Where it's actually going to be located was not really up to us. It has to be determined by transportation
And Public Works.
because it's being built in the right-of-way roads.
And just to follow up on the sidewalk issue, I did talk to a member of the Public Works transportation staff, and they discussed sidewalks basically come in as the city can afford to put sidewalks in if money is available, or eventually sidewalks get placed as part of a subdivision project. The adjacent property was required to put sidewalk in as part of a subdivision. At this time, Public Works staff did confirm that there's no plans to put sidewalk in at this property, and there's no nexus to require them to. However, if there should be money in the future, they would be required to relocate or remove that fence in order to put sidewalk in the public right-of-way.
This actually brings up an issue, and I may have to agree with Bernie, because if we do allow him to put that fence where he is, let's say they decide to put a sidewalk in 3 or 4 years from now, let's say they plant trees or something like that, and they become quite mature, it might behoove them to actually have that fence built where it should be, so that the future, when a sidewalk is built, they don't have to change that fence.
Well, again, that's part of the Public Works encroachment. The encroachment permit staff and Public Works staff is determining the location. That's not in our purview to decide the location in the right-of-way. The application is for Public Works.
But if I may, we did comment, though, that we preferred it to be on the lot line, not where it was. So we sent those comments to Public Works.
Fred?
Mr. Chair, I went by there this morning and looked at the site, and because I saw the correspondence from the neighbors concerning the lights. Has anyone seen the lights on the panel at night? Okay, because I'm familiar with those particular fixtures, but I haven't actually seen them in the evening or after dark in that location. So that would be a concern. It's easy to say, yes, we'll replace the glass with opaque glass or glass that will lessen the glare down. I'm not so sure you can actually do that with those fixtures, but obviously the applicant will have to provide that information. I'm assuming that's a question.
Okay.
Yeah, there were several lighting fixtures as well, as the applicant and owner identified. Some of the floodlights, as concerned by the neighbors, were at the rear of the property, and he said he would remove those. The light fixtures at the front of the property, as part of the fence, he said he would reduce those to. Those already have the night or the cap at the top, so it doesn't allow the up lighting. And those are the light fixtures. He said he would also either remove or replace with obscure glass and minimal wattage.
And then given the fence location, the pedestals those light fixtures sit on are fairly substantial, so I do have that same concern of the fence sitting where it is today, and as someone pointed out, 2 or 3 years from now, sidewalk wanting to go in, and then the arguments could be made that, those are substantial pedestals and it's not simply just moving a fence back. So.
Okay. I have a question, too. There was some comments about an over-height fence in the front setback. Why is that?
Well, this is a corner lot, and so the portion of the fence along La Jolla Drive and along Medcliff is located in the public right-of-way. The portion of the fence that connects La Jolla to the house, which essentially gives them their backyard, is over height. That's essentially to give, their request is to allow it to be the same height as the fence within the right-of-way to give them some backyard area and some privacy area to secure backyard privacy.
Okay. Yes, Jim.
On the light fixtures, are they the approved light fixtures that he's using? Have they been approved?
Well, the light fixtures, I don't know if you want to respond to
Well,
that?
no, nothing has been approved. This was an enforcement case. He just did all this work without, any permits or anything. So,
Yeah, so this was just comments today. It'll be forwarded to the staff hearing officer for the modification. And then on a separate issue, the Public Works Department will review the encroachment permit, which is, except for, like Mr. Miller stated, other than the compatibility of the materials and the heights, the location was not within our jurisdiction, your jurisdiction.
Okay. So your original comment.
We could continue, because I still think there are enough issues that we might want to revisit this, but it's a single-story remodel, so they didn't have to go to the single-family board for any design review, but do they have to do a landscaping plan as part of their work?
It's not required at this time. I mean, they haven't done this, it's not a brand-new house, it's not an addition, and a landscape plan is generally becomes the nexus of the board if they would want them to do a complete site landscape plan based on the scope of work that they're applying for.
Yes, Denise.
my name is Mr. Chair. He did say they fully intend to landscape. They just haven't got there yet. So his intention is to landscape the property. But I know, do you believe it or not? Maybe you don't. However, that is his intention. He seemed very, very, very willing to comply with the lighting and all that. So he just wasn't clear that everybody was really up in arms with him, actually.
And in that case, that would be, that he would have to provide the proposed landscaping on the plan prior to an approval by the board,
With the new lighting fixtures.
if he continues to propose them. At this point, he said he would remove them.
The issue for me still is, so, okay, put the sidewalk on the back burner, but the fact that if they allow the, what do they call it, the fence is on in the right-of-way now, so you can't even walk on the dirt path, and that's what the neighborhood is, as more buildings get built there, that's really a concern.
But that's not our jurisdiction, that's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah,
Well, it would be our jurisdiction if we look at the project, wouldn't it?
you are looking at the project, but again, the location, as they're proposing it, is in the right-of-way, and that's the Public Works encroachment permit, a separate issue. If they weren't triggering anything for design review, you wouldn't see it at all. It would just be an encroachment permit by the Public Works Department.
Did our board present any comments regarding the fence in the right-of-way? Whether, okay.
Yeah.
Denise
Which didn't
recommended
see.
that it go back.
Okay, good.
Back to the property line, which is...
So that's all about
And
as
those
good as we
comments
can
have been
do.
forwarded to the Public Works staff.
So if Public Works approves it and then the staff hearing officer approves it, then who's the final say to look at the light fixture and look at if the fence is going to get painted or if the landscaping is going to get done? Who's going to do that?
That's the board.
That would be our board. So the question is, does it go back to consent or does it come to full board? And that was kind of your first
Yeah.
question.
And I think now that if anybody doesn't have any more comments, we can take a vote on
Sure.
that after this discussion as to whether or not.
Is it just a
the majority
straw
of the
vote
board-
at this point?
We'll make a vote. I mean, this would be a motion to refer an item from today's consent agenda to the full board rather than it continuing to consent.
Okay. I still would like to make that motion that we take a look at it.
And it needs to be seconded, right? I'll second it, just to get it a vote. And then at this point, we're just going to raise hands, or?
Ayes or nays? If you get a majority, then it will go to full board.
Okay.
I think if there's an issue, it should go to full board.
Okay, so we're going to take a vote on that. Okay, let's everybody's going to raise their hand says it should come back to full board, not consent. Full board. Okay, so unanimous.
We couldn't handle it on consent.
Well, there may be other issues that are just uncomfortable to other people. It might go quickly on full board.
And now, Mr. Chair, also if we take a final motion on the minutes of today, the motion of July 18th,
Okay.
all
so
of the items.
Were there any additional comments on the calendar for today? Not hearing any, I'll take a vote. Oop.
If we're on the, are we on July 5th?
No.
Consent, okay, then keep going, sorry.
So we're on July 18th consent. Okay. So we'll take a vote on the approval of the calendar. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And abstain. I have to abstain from item A. So at this point, we'll move to announcements. Staff, is there any announcements to review?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I do have one announcement. I just wanted to let the board know and the public know that there was an item application for 2324 Santa Barbara Street, and this application was noticed for the full board for today's meeting. However, as you see, it is not on today's agenda. After the mailed notice went out, the applicant requested it be postponed 2 weeks to the August 1st agenda. So just making that announcement that it was the owners and neighbors within a 300-foot radius received a mailed notice for that item to be on today's agenda, but this is now the public announcement that it is going to be scheduled for Monday, August 1st, 2011.
And it's never been on the agenda, technically, right? I mean, it wasn't on the website.
It was not on the agenda, no.
Okay.
Just the notice went out, and he requested it be postponed before the actual today's agenda went out today.
Okay, thank you. And we'll move to some subcommittee reports, and we do not have any subcommittees at this time, so we should be able to move to item number 1, which is 1724 Mira Vista Avenue, if the applicant's here for that. I'll read the agenda since this is a new item. 1724 Mira Vista Avenue, proposal for a complete facade and interior remodel and an 83 square foot addition to an existing one-story, 2,344 square foot single-family residence. The proposal includes the installation of a new roof-mounted photovoltaic solar panel system, a new swimming pool, and pool-related equipment. The existing house is built over two existing parcels, which total 38,029 square feet, and the project approval is contingent on the approval of a voluntary lot merger prior to issuance of a building permit. The proposed total of 2,427 square feet on the combined parcel total of 38,029 square feet is 50% of the maximum guideline floor-to-lot area ratio. This project will address violations listed in the ZAR 2011-17, and this is action may be taken, and there's a Tier 3 level stormwater management required on this project. And at this point, I'll move to the applicant, if you could state your name.
My name is Elizabeth Conklin.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And if your presentation.
Yes. I am an architect and project manager at Olson Kundig Architects, and I'm here on behalf of my clients Todd and Sue Black. I'm going to just give a brief overview of what I'm going to talk about, just give a brief outline of the proposal, mention the concept, and then get into some site issues, and then the building design. So first off, as Glenn mentioned, this is a remodel and a small addition of an existing 1950 home in the Riviera. It's in the Hillside Design District. It's located at 1724 Mira Vista Avenue. And we have submitted, we were hoping for project design approval, but we have submitted the final checklist for approval if that was at all possible. So anyways, this is a project that is designed by the partner of our firm, Tom Kundig. And the concept of the project is really to take the existing building and to maximize that interior space for its most efficient use, and also to connect the interior to the exterior, make that connection, but also connect to the interior to the great views of the ocean and the surrounding neighborhood. And then also to update the building for structural purposes and for energy efficiency. And the property itself, if you move to the site plan on A100, you could also look at the survey even. As you can see, as Glenn mentioned, it is a parcel. There are two parcels, and the interior lot line is straddling across through the building, and we are going through the lot merger, the voluntary lot merger. We're in the process now of getting our surveyor to do that process. The lot slope, the average is the 14%, and the existing footprint will remain as is, and our addition is connecting the existing garage to the existing house. With the addition and any other foundation requirements for new structure for the building, we're looking at less than 50 cubic yards of cut and fill, plus the pool, which is roughly 200 cubic yards. So we're, under 250 cubic yards total for cut and fill and grading. We're leaving the existing driveway as it is, but reducing. Right now the driveway comes all the way up to the building, so we're going to landscape that entry area with new citrus trees and an entry walk and landscaping. So we're reducing that that surface. But other than those 8 new trees that are shown, we are leaving all the other landscaping as is. All the existing trees are remaining on site. The existing hedges, shrubs, any landscaping that we have. So then as far as the hedges are concerned, there are all along the side setbacks and the front and rear, and I've noted that those will maintain their maximum required heights. As far as fences are concerned, because this was something that was also noted in that document, the zoning violations, there's an existing fence at the north side that is actually 3.5 feet tall, and the existing fences on the east portion are not over the maximum either. There's no other fence at the south side, and the fences, there's a wall and a little railing above, but that's on the adjacent property at the west side. We are proposing new fence to come off the south side of the garage and down to the south property line, and we're so along the south property line, 10 foot from the right-of-way, we're proposing it to be 3.5 feet. What else? The open yard is back here in the back on the north side, and it's the 1,250 square feet. There's more than enough space there for that. And as far as interject if you have any questions on the site.
I'm interested to see that
Yes,
section.
there's site section on A310. So since we haven't really done one or two more. So it starts at on the left-hand side, the Mission Ridge Road, and slopes down. There's a small retaining wall existing. We're leaving the grade as it is, this existing building. There's our new pool, and then it slopes down to existing 18-inch high wall down at Mare Vista.
Okay. Can you walk us through the elevations
Yes,
just quickly?
yes. So the elevations on A300, the design, the main portion of the design is that we are taking off the roof in its entirety. It is currently a hip roof, as you can see in this photo, and we are putting on a low slope appearing flat roof with membrane. The footprint of the roof is nearly the same area as the existing roof. It's actually a little bit smaller because at the garage and the mudroom area, we're actually taking off the roof overhangs, and we just have a small parapet. And then the center roof, we're cantilevering out pretty close to the extent of the existing roof. But the idea here is that we're doing a little more contemporary look, just cleaning it up, really, the design, and structurally, because the existing roof isn't really structurally sound, so we need to replace that. So we're doing something that is a little lower. The existing roof now is 15 feet, and this will max out at 13'9". We're leaving it single story as it is, and but really the main idea is that we're redoing the south facade to maximize our windows and our views. So we have this full facade is being redone. The exterior walls will be stucco where and they'll remain stucco where they're existing, and we'll patch and reskin as necessary, and then any new walls will be stucco. I have a materials palette, so also. So this is a materials palette. Let's see. So windows, I do have cut sheets in this little package also. The windows are an all aluminum Western windows. It's a high-end window company, and so they're thermally broken units. Very nice. I also have, if anyone's interested, a full brochure of their windows. This is not included. I only had one copy, but I can leave it with you guys if necessary. And those will be a dark bronze anodized color. Then the stucco is going to be a dark sort of brown color. As I don't know, on the cover you did see the rendering, which is colored. I can show you a smaller version. Here's a rendering of the entry walk through the citrus trees, and both those renderings, you're on that over there, is also, so it shows that color. This tan color is the soffit material, which would extend from the interior ceiling to the exterior soffit, and that would be a plaster material. This gray color is the roofing membrane. Not very visible, but we would have also solar panels. If we look on the roof plan, you would see solar panels, and I do have a cut sheet for those in the packet. There's a cut sheet for solar panels also in there. And then this other 4 or 5 material is any steel painted. We have steel columns and beams at the front. They would be painted, or any of the flashings, the eaves, for the fascias, and then also the chimney cap is a steel color. And then this number 8, this thicker material, is just showing the example of the entry door, which is more of a blackened steel. It gives a little more texture than just a purely painted surface. And the concrete is the chimney and the fireplace. So those are, pass those around. I also had a cut sheet in the package for exterior lighting, which, this shows as landscape lighting, but we've used this before on the exterior building itself. So we would, and it shows on the floor plan A210 that would be located along the beam at the south elevation going down, and then also at the entry overhang there would be like a recessed fixture, and also at the back door there would be a fixture.
Okay.
Anything else? I do have, just as far as the chimney cap, this is an example photo that we've done of it's a custom chimney cap, steel, and this is in your package also. So there also included is a structural narrative. It's a little 5-page document that mentions the structure.
Okay.
Anything else? Any questions?
Okay, I think we'll get through that.
Okay.
So I'd like to go to public comment. If there's anybody here that would like to speak on this project, I don't have any slips, so I'm not seeing anybody jump up. I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for their questions. I have a question. There's a ZAR listed on the agenda. Do you know what that is? Okay. Anybody else have some questions? Fred?
Yes, I had a couple. What's the comparative height I don't recall, is there a chimney on the house now?
Yes, the chimney height right now,
Yeah. What's comparative to what you're proposing?
the chimney's about 3 feet above that, so that's 18 feet to the, probably up the top of the chimney.
So the chimney you're proposing is, what, 2 or 3 feet higher than the
Yeah,
front one? Okay.
yeah.
And then, do you have yet, I know that we're at concept level here, but do you have some idea of what the fences might look like? One of my questions is, this house sits well within the property. You're not proposing a large addition. So from a compatibility in the neighborhood standpoint, I assume folks are going to be more concerned about the hedges and the trees and obviously the fence. So I was just wondering if you had an idea of what your fence material might
Yeah,
look
most
like.
likely more of a, maybe like a 4x4 steel metal, something that's fairly transparent. It's more to keep the dogs out,
Okay, so it's
not a visual.
it's a visual see-through
Yes,
element,
transparent.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean there might be
But-
shrubs.
but not necessarily a chain link fence.
No, no. There is on the north, the existing fences that are on the north side and the east side are chain link fences, but they're buried. You can barely see them. They are in the existing hedges.
And then on the colors that you presented, are you painting the stucco or is that a color code?
Oh, integrally in the stucco.
Okay.
Yes.
And then when you talked about the soffit, and I'm looking at your renderings here,
Yes.
that lighter color is on the underside, and then when it comes up to this fascia, which appears to be 12 inches or so,
Right.
that's the...
So the
what
fascia,
color is it?
the vertical face is the darker steel,
Okay.
and then this is the soffit material.
Okay. And then I guess this is a question to whomever. Are they required at concept or any level to have a landscape plan, or how does that work?
We're not required to have landscape at all, depending on.
Okay.
Is that done?
That's my questions.
I'll follow up on Fred's question. It may be a question more to staff, but with the swimming pool going in, is this property required to have pool fencing around the perimeter? So the issue that I see is right now the fence is in the setback, which it can't be higher than 42 inches.
Yeah, so they'd have to comply with the building code requirements for security fencing around the pool.
So is that inside? So that security fence around the pool, does it need to be inside the setback? Is that what you're saying, or?
Yes, to be.
It has to be
To be the
outside
right
the
height,
setback.
correct.
Otherwise, or at least outside the first 10 feet of the front property line.
Which
or
means-
outside
Well, it
the
is.
right-of-way.
It's in 10 feet from the property line,
It's only 3
but doesn't that pool fence have to be
6 feet.
5 feet?
5 feet.
It can be fine.
So if we make sure it's beyond the 10 feet, we could make it 5 feet then?
I want to ask that question. That's all.
Yeah.
And then also, if we're tying in, obviously it has to be a complete containment
Yes.
around, and
Yes.
I can't quite tell
Yeah.
where things are there.
Uh-huh.
It has to be a non-climbable gate, and if this is part of the solution, this would have to be 5 feet.
Okay.
Maybe. Additional questions?
Well, Mr. Chair, I'll get back to you regarding your question regarding the ZIRs. That was just the ZIR identified violations for parking, the previous, the garage was not accessible to vehicles, which is
Okay.
required to be maintained at all times. The storage shed encroached into the interior yard setback, but you'll see on the site plan she's proposing, that's proposed to be removed.
Okay.
And then it was also regarding overheight fences and hedges.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I've got one additional question. Could you describe a little bit more about the gravel driveway? What's your intention there?
It's an existing driveway. We're maintaining it as it is.
And so are you proposing any improvement to the edge or basically just...
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're not changing the configuration of it? Okay.
Just in terms of reducing the area, this is currently driveway.
Okay. Jim?
Would you explain again your perimeter fencing and what you plan on doing?
Okay.
We're still unclear whether or not we can put a 5-foot fence outside the 10-foot setback of the right-of-way, or does it have to be completely behind the front setback?
No, the fence height, the maximum 42-inch height requirement lies on a property anywhere, any fences or hedges located on the property line or within the first 10 feet of a property line, or a setback, which in the case where there's a right-of-way, that setback line would be measured from the outside edge of the right-of-way line. So if it's beyond that first 10 feet, then it can exceed 3.5 feet in height.
So we could essentially
Just
make
raise
it
it.
5 feet at the 10-foot or the 10-foot one mark?
At the 10 feet.
Beyond, so I need
10 foot one.
10 foot, okay, or 10 foot 6.
Okay. Additional questions? Let's move to comments, please.
Are you from Seattle?
Yes.
Welcome to Santa
Thank you.
Barbara. So I've noticed this, we had a project like this that came before us in the consent calendar today, is that this particular style of architecture seems to be coming back into vogue with the flat roof. It's a very Philip Johnson look. And in this community, where we're trying to protect the aesthetic look, and the typical aesthetic look is the Spanish colonial two-piece mission tile. And for all the criticism and tirades that people have, there's a quality to this community about that particular vernacular style that makes this area unique. I noticed that there's now this big popularity of this mid-century kind of style that was popular in the 50s and 60s that's being introduced into our neighborhood, which is perfectly natural, and it's the perfect right of the owners. But I'm uncomfortable with a flat roof in this neighborhood. I'm uncomfortable because it doesn't really jive with the rest of the neighborhood, and I'm uncomfortable with the neighbors looking down on a flat surface. What is that they're looking at? Is it going to look like the top of a tennis court? I mean, you're going to put photovoltaic, which is the energy efficiency of the day, but I'm just uncomfortable how the flat roof is going to really work in this crazy community we call Santa Barbara.
And that's just a comment.
Okay.
And that's just my comment.
Can I?
Absolutely.
I did present the adjacent properties, and I feel that the neighborhood is varied in its style. There are the mission style, the Spanish style roofs, but there are other types. This is more maybe California bungalow style. They are Tudor style. So there's varying. I also have another another key of 3 homes that are just up the road that are very modern with flat roofs also. And there are, homes up above them that are looking down also. So we would hope that, that you're looking down on something, it would be nice to have like a green roof, but we can't due to fire hazards. And, the more solar panels, it's darker. This color of the roof is a little bit better than the white.
Yeah.
But oftentimes people want white because it's more energy efficient, so there's that
Right.
trade-off
Exactly.
to do the a little bit more neutral color.
Well, I appreciate that. I feel a little more comfortable now knowing that you're not just bringing something
Yeah.
totally new into the neighborhood.
Oh, I
so.
know.
Thank you.
Jim?
Mr. Chair. I like the contemporary design. And I think being that it's sitting in the center of the property, it'd be different if you were right on the setbacks. But I think up above, you're going to have less visibility with this roof than the roof that's there now. I think the light gray will blend in, to the landscapes. But I like the design. Very nice.
Thank you. Denise?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'd like to weigh in favor of it as well. I really like your color board. I think it'll be a real asset to the neighborhood.
Thank you. Bernie?
Mr. Chair. I guess I think it does meet our compatibility guidelines, except I'm looking at the color, the darkness of the whole piece of it, and I'm just wondering if there might be a way of finding some places where it could be either more naturally rather than industrial colors, just to make it more compatible.
Thank you. Fred, do you have any comments?
Yes, I've got probably a few comments. I think, first of all, I think this is a very sophisticated, modern-air approach to the project, so I appreciate that. And I agree with Jim, the fact that it's sitting in the center of the site. I don't think this is going to overly offend anyone that may have a Spanish-style house within a few houses of this. So I appreciate that. I think what's going to be interesting for me is the landscape solution. Your renderings allude to citrus. It's a very Mediterranean kind of approach, at least what you're showing in your rendering. So what the landscape solution is probably going to really make this house. Having said that, I'm curious about how you're going to approach the pool issue. Because right now it's showing this little narrow band, and how do you integrate your landscape next to the pool, and then, of course, the fence requirements, et cetera. I'm also, from the neighborhood standpoint, hopefully very intrigued about what you're going to propose to this gate that you're showing down at the bottom at Mira Vista, particularly this photograph that you submitted here. Come over. And how the ultimate plan will deal with that street view. As one, this happens to be a neighborhood I walk quite a bit, and so you look up into those sites, so I can appreciate what you're attempting to do. The other thing I was curious about is the photovoltaics. Are they going to sit flat on the roof, or are you going to put them up at an angle?
5 degrees is
Okay.
the minimum slope to make them work. So it is pretty low slope. They're not up here.
So, and I assume they bring details back to us in this process. This is my very first meeting, so I apologize. So I'm learning.
Detail, I have the cut sheet of the solar panel.
I'm just
I
going to
don't
be
know.
interested to see how those look in a section and how they're attached to the roof. Obviously this is a concept at this point, but that'd be something I would be looking at when you bring it back in. So those are my comments. I think that the project can be very well done. I think this is a good approach. The client, having selected this particular style of architecture, is perfectly acceptable given the position of the house and the size of the lot. But I think the fencing and the landscape, from my perspective, will be the thing that we will probably collectively be looking at in terms of compatibility within the fabric of the neighborhood.
Yes, Denise.
Yes, thanks, Fred, for that, because now I'm looking at this plan and I'm not seeing any hardscape material called out around the pool. So there's a lot of missing information here that I think would be included in a landscape plan. And I think that this much of a redo merits calling for a landscape plan, personally. It's such a change from what was there before, and in looking at the current landscape, it certainly could use a change. That would this goes with that house, but certainly wouldn't go with this one. I wondered how many others felt also compelled to.
Denise, I'll echo that comment. I'll echo Fred's comment. I wrote down trees because I noticed on the perspectives or the renderings, they're beautiful, absolutely beautiful, but they do show these masses of orange trees, and I think those are fantastic. But there's nothing indicated here other than the entrance ones. Echoing Denise's comment about hardscape, there's also a Tier 3 level storm management program, and that's going to be very integral with your landscape plan. So I think I hear the board loud and clear that the house everybody is pretty happy with. But there's some site work that needs to be developed some. And it's going to be a fantastic project. There's no question about that.
Mr. Chair, I agree, because there's no landscaping or no trees shown on the north side. And I think up above, when they're looking down on the top of the roof, I think some low-level trees would be very attractive to break up the grayness of the roof with the green trees.
But are we allowed to plant trees that are higher than 3.5 feet? I mean, hedges in the
Sure.
that setback?
Yeah, it's not a hedge, it's a tree.
It's a tree. Trees are okay, but hedges are not. Because trees, you look through the branches or trunk.
Or they're just not continuous, hopefully. Okay, so those are all good comments. This project is ready for an action, and we can take any action that seems appropriate. I'm looking at the drawings here. There's a lot of detail that actually did come with it. The materials, the lighting. I'm looking at some sections. Looks like it's just all metal. Soffits. We got the window, door details. So, is anybody willing to make a motion on this project?
Could I make another comment?
Sure.
On that section, you show quite a large gutter going around.
Yes.
Is there any, I think part of the design is the real clean fascia going around. Is it possible maybe to put in some drains and then you could bring the downspouts?
Internal roof drains.
Yeah, internal.
It is possible. That's typically a cost issue. 'Cause
Right.
It's more expensive.
So let's move back to see if anybody is willing to make a motion on this project. Yes, Fred. Your first meeting, you're going to try one?
No, well, I don't know that I'll try. I do have a question. If one were to make a motion that says we like the house, we like the concept, we would move ahead, but we'd like to see a landscape plan, is that an appropriate motion?
Absolutely.
Then that would be my motion. I'd like to see the house in general as concept, I think, is approvable. But
So we have to establish what level of approval are we doing?
Return to the board.
Is it preliminary approval or final approval?
well, I'm learning. So
Okay.
you guys, that's why I'm not willing to make the motion, because I'm learning. So, but I think the general approach is, in my view, is perfectly acceptable. It's the landscaping and fencing thing I'd like to see, the hardscape. So I don't know how to make that motion.
Okay. We're going to help out, hopefully incorporate your language here.
Okay.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion for preliminary, well, actually, this has got a lot of detail work already in. How does everybody feel about final approval
It's your
pending
motion.
a landscape plan?
It's your motion.
Yeah, okay, well,
Mr. Chair, I'd just like
We
to
can't do
make a-
final because of
Can't
tier
do
3.
Okay.
final without tier 3.
right, all right
Or
then.
without a landscaping company.
That's right. Okay, good. So I would like to make a motion to give this project
Project design.
project design approval, thank you, with the condition of coming back, continuing indefinitely to the full board with a landscape plan addressing the pool fencing and the Tier 3 stormwater management,
Which includes all the hardscape,
and including all the hardscape for the project.
making NPO findings.
I'd like to make NPO findings that this home is compatible with the neighborhood, that it is has high-quality materials, and the third one. Well, and that would be that.
And there's no trees being removed as part of
No
this
trees
project?
being
Yeah.
removed as part of this project.
Okay. Is anybody willing to second that motion?
I'll second it.
So Jim's second. Discussion? Bernie?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to see if the maker of the motion will consider adding study, I guess the proposed 4x4 steel type of fencing around the property. I think you mentioned that. I don't think that's going to be compatible, and I think if we can go toward more natural blending in with what's around instead of such a modern contemporary, at least ease in a little bit. So the other part is, you notice it's contingent on the lot merger. Do we need to mention that at all, or? Okay, that's it then, thank you.
So Bernie, part of that will be kind of reconciled with the pool fencing anyway, because the 4x4 probably won't meet that requirement.
Right.
So they're going to have to study what will meet that requirement first.
Okay, well, I just
Yeah.
like the idea of the more natural materials, perhaps.
Okay. Any more discussion on that motion? Okay, take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You're opposed.
It's too industrial.
Okay. And abstains? Nobody. Okay. So you have a approved project.
Okay.
You have to put yourself back on the calendar and be back here with a landscape plan.
Okay.
Thank
you.
This is looks like it'll be fantastic.
Should I leave this, or does that matter?
We've got one packet here, so I think
Oh, I left three plans with 3 of those,
well, I
right?
don't know, I think it's not one.
Okay.
And the color board.
Oh, and definitely you keep that.
Yeah.
So you have one of those.
So we're going to... Okay, we're going to move to item number 2 on the agenda, which is 1507 Alameda Padre Sierra. Sierra? This is a proposal to construct a new 298 square foot second floor addition to an existing 3-level, 2,284 square foot single-family residence and detached 511 square foot 2-car garage. The proposed total of 3,093 square feet located on a 20,038 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District is 66% of the floor to lot area ratio. This is action is ready, and we have a Tier 2 compliance stormwater management to contend with. And if you could introduce yourselves.
Reese Fleming, owner.
Welcome.
Jason Carter, drafter.
Welcome. And your presentation, please.
I have one. What triggered us into a Tier 2 when it's below 500 feet? It's 17% grade.
I think I can answer that.
Okay, thank you.
The 17% grade, right? Or the
Actually,
20%.
this project would have been required to do Tier 3 solely on its location in the Hillside Design District.
Oh, really?
Based on the square footage being less than 500, we've reduced it to a Tier 2 requirement.
Okay.
It's the Hillside.
All right. Now, in the Tier 2, what am I required to do to comply with that?
Not Denise, sorry. Michelle. I can try to answer it, but there's a whole pamphlet of ways
Okay.
to do that. So there's a lot of different ways of doing
Well, I went into the best management policies, and with all the rains we had this last year, when I bought the house originally, the previous owner, he had completely all the asphalt in the front, and there was hardly any area drains, no French drains, no anything. So going over their list, I have already totally redone all the driveway to pavers, so I have a percolating thing there. I put French drains across the entire front, which is not on there, but they're there. And any other waters that were sloughing from anything, they would slough onto the middle of the lawn with those pop-ups. I'm not adding any extra square footage as far as the roof. It's all just going up. So
Your downspouts are also disconnected. They don't go in the ground.
no,
They just go on splash bog.
right.
I mean, it sounds to me if you document most of that stuff on this set of drawings, you'll probably be okay, but I would check with staff.
Okay.
So if you could just concentrate probably on your physical additions, and we'll not worry about the Tier 2.
Sure.
We have a second floor, 320 square foot addition above an existing family room that we're just stacking. The front and back walls we're stacking on top of. The end wall had to move in to comply with the setback. And we're extending, as you'll see on the elevations and roof plan, we're extending the ridge line. We're not going any higher. The ridge just continues over that. The space is to be utilized as a master closet, and there's a little small sitting area. This is our existing plan.
This is the second floor.
Yes,
here,
sir.
right?
Existing second floor with the area of the addition denoted as demo of existing roof. Roofing, rather. The existing roof will remain under the addition. This is the space down below on the first floor.
So this is going to move from a vaulted space to a...
Still going to remain vaulted. We're going to do the new
My
floor
wife,
above.
she wouldn't know. She says, I'm not having that opened up.
This is the addition.
So there's no windows on that side at
No,
all?
sir.
And a roof plan? Okay. Here we go. So you're basically keeping the structure of the roof on
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Removing the overhangs.
and building on top of that.
Right.
That's a very inexpensive way of
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Is all of the materials pretty much going to match up?
Everything's going to match existing. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else for your presentation?
No, I'm sorry. I have no pallets.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm going to move to public comment. If there's anybody in the public that would like to speak on this project, I don't have slips, so I'm assuming not. So we'll close public comment, bring it back to the board for their questions. Questions by board members? You look very happy, Brian, there.
It's not a flat roof. Okay.
I didn't. Was there pictures floating around at all? For that?
There are photos.
Yeah. I didn't see any yet.
They're keyed on the site plan for reference.
This is your property here?
The white fence.
This one here. Okay. So it's this, and that's going to get filled in.
Right.
So there's no tree limbs that are affected?
Oh, yeah, there's going to have to be two that have to be pruned.
Can you point them out on a site plan at all? After Jim looks at this for a second.
It's a branch one. Is that the large one in the
No, it's the one little one here. There's a branch that hangs into here, and then the one over here, they have a branch that hangs into here.
So that branch right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's two of them that are about that big.
I'll make sure you look at that, Denise. This is the most unusual property line I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. I talked to the gentleman, very nice guy, and he said he just went over before they sold, and when he was building his, and he said, I'd like to do this, and I said, sure. And I went, okay. It's, yeah, very unusual.
So questions for the applicant? Bernie, are you
I'm still trying to understand it, so.
okay?
Okay, should I start?
Go
If
ahead.
you have a question? Yes, Fred.
Yeah, I guess the Santa Barbans are always confused about where north is. So where is north on your drawing here? On your site
down,
plan?
down street side.
So it's down. So it's this way. Okay, 'cause I didn't see it.
Well, yeah, this is,
So what I was
north-south.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand the section and the elevations. So on the elevations, the part we're going to see from APS is where? Right.
This one right here.
That one right there. Okay. So currently, and I think the photographs are floating around here somewhere. Currently, there's shutters on each side of these windows.
Correct.
And on the addition, which is this piece,
Right.
I'm assuming that piece, then the shutters are on one side only, and this is saying fall. What does that mean?
Okay, these are going to be full windows because it's a closet, and so the gentleman's going to make the window look exactly like this. There will be shutters on both sides.
Fred, I'm going to interrupt you for a
Okay, gotcha.
second. If you could we actually need to do a lot of the discussion on
Sorry.
camera.
Sorry.
I know it's a learning thing. It'll take a while.
All right. So, okay, I was just trying to figure out what those
This
windows
is just to match so it all looks the same.
Okay.
So these windows don't open, they don't go anywhere, and it's just that.
And so there'll be a false wall behind them?
Exactly.
Okay.
But they'll look exactly the same. They'll have the shutters in there just like the other ones.
So, well, I guess I'm wondering how you clean them, but that's another issue. This distance I just measured with the scale, if I'm looking right. That says that's 5 feet 6 inches.
Correct.
To here, and this is a little less than 8 feet, as I recall.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, is there a code issue of having a ceiling that low?
There are, you could have a wall lower than that, obviously, and
Yeah.
capes and things, but there's going to be a minimum height
Right,
to
minimum
the room.
for the size of the room, right?
Yeah.
Right, okay, so,
Which it does comply.
okay.
So we'll just,
I was trying to understand it.
it's sort of a building code issue.
Yeah, I realize what you're attempting to do here. So I think those are primarily my questions, and there's no windows on this side.
No, there's an existing one right now, which we are taking out.
Right, and then there's this, am I looking at the right thing? No, over here. Okay, so here's this picture window tucked right up to the underside of this eave. Okay, I guess those are my questions.
Any additional questions?
Could we look at the second floor again? I think you have a deck going out. A deck going out to the rear.
The deck is existing.
Right.
And the stairway is existing.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Question, comment?
The faux windows, how do you address the faux windows without looking,
I have a gentleman out of Ventura that he can make anything, and he showed me a mock-up of how he could actually do it. Just stud it up just like he would anything else, with the headers and the whole thing. And then the window inserts, except for it being, for the distance, it's just in half and it just slides into the pocket and boom, boom, and you're all done. Seal it up, and it looks like a window, but it's not. So.
I think maybe you put a shade or a curtain in between so you can't see the
Yeah, no, it's going to have the same existing blind inside there. So
That's
yeah,
all right.
it'll look like it's closed, half with the slats. So
Okay.
okay.
Let's move to comments. Anybody?
I would like to make a comment, but Denise or... Did I understand that in order to do this, you would be trimming the branches of the oak trees that are in that
There's
space?
two branches that will be in this line here. One hangs in probably about 3 feet, and another one hangs in about 4 feet within the parameters of the top.
And is that somehow monitored, or is there a way to make sure the trees stay healthy when that?
The question probably is, has an arborist looked at it, or has anybody looked at the tree?
Oh yeah.
And have you
Yeah.
got a letter saying that wouldn't impact negatively on the health of that tree?
No, but I will.
Okay. That could happen if we wanted to. Again, we're into comments. Fred, you made an interesting point about the shutters.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little concerned about the use of a faux window and the shutters. I guess maybe I should have asked in the question, if you were to raise the roof on this particular addition higher than the current ridge, I assume you're holding it there because it would exceed a zoning requirement or a height requirement. So that's kind of a given. You have to hold to that line without some change. Because this is a very attractive house, and I've watched it over a number of years. And so I appreciate what you're attempting to do, and certainly well within the realm of reason. But I guess I'm a little concerned that the approach of the window and the window placement and the window types doesn't kind of go with the rest of the house, and I'm not sure. I guess I'm just not comfortable that it's kind of there.
Well, the reason I'm keeping this whole line is because aesthetically I want it to look like this. I wanted to originally go out into here, but since we lost that in the setback, whatever, we probably would have had a better feel as far as across. But I definitely think when this project is done, you won't notice. It'll look like it's been there the whole time.
I have a comment to follow up. Again, the shutter idea kind of caught me before, because this only has shutter on one half of the window where the rest don't. And I understand why, because you can't necessarily put one right there because of the downspout, and things could be shifted over. Right now, they're just two windows stacked over the bottom.
Right.
But if we look on the rest of the house, there's not one window stacked over any window.
Right.
So it might be a good solution to just put one window and put some shutters and simplify it and make it cheaper. And
I like that. I like that. Now you're talking my language.
But I don't think it'll have a negative impact on it at all, and it'll feel better to have the double shutters on it and match that part of it.
That
I like
might
that.
be a better approach, a single one, maybe a single little larger one. Because this house has this kind of eclectic
Yeah.
assortment of window shapes. It could have just a single window, kind of still achieve the same aesthetic desire that you're looking for,
Yeah.
and maybe make a little.
I just like this to have two shutters on a window, so it actually looks like they'll work versus
Right.
just a fake shutter. So, any other comments?
And I agree with that. I agree with the one window. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Thank you.
Okay, this project is ready for an action. We can't give it. Can we give it final with tier 2, or just tier 3? We can't.
No, swim has to be shown in compliance before any final approval
Okay,
can be
so we
granted.
can only go
However,
to a.
I just wanted to clarify. I think I heard while I was. Are you you've replaced the existing driveway with a permeable surface?
Yes.
Okay.
I think
and
there
that's
are
clearly
pictures in there.
documented on the plans.
It is. It's in the photos.
Is it on the plan?
Excuse me, what was the second question?
And is that clearly documented on the plans, the
It's
materials, and
not, it's not documented on the plans. I can do that.
Location is shown.
because that would be
Oh, it is
a
there. Okay.
Well, I'm seeing a bunch of notes, but I haven't really followed through yet.
because that would comply with SWIP if you just want to make sure that that's in the project description and noted on the plans
Okay.
as your SWIP compliance.
Right.
In our motion, we could just actually state.
Make a condition.
Yes. Okay.
To show that.
So is somebody ready to make a motion on this very modest project?
Yeah, I feel terrible taking up your time.
Ted Brown.
Which project design plan channel or what?
Do we want to see the new window?
Well, if your condition is to match the existing.
We can do that.
We
We
can
can
match.
match existing and
How
one
here?
window with two colors.
Okay, well, like, project for final. I hope it's approval. With the recommendation that there'll be a single window located here
Mm-hmm.
on the east north elevation.
Correct.
And that the new addition applies to all the guidelines, quality of materials,
And making MPO.
the NPO findings. And as far as the landscape plan, do we need to do a landscape plan of our own?
There's nothing touching the ground. We'll talk about that.
Okay, and it's to include the arborist report regarding the trimming of the oak trees. And,
Yeah.
oh, and to include the stormwater management plan.
Or to actually just note that the pavers had been replaced, or the driveway has been replaced with
Yeah,
pavers.
those been replaced, and then we did French drains all the way across the front.
And driveway has been replaced with a permeable surface and French drains have been included on the
It's
site.
about keeping the water on site, so that's,
Well, yeah, this, I was real happy with, when we got it all done and it started raining again, there was absolutely nothing going. I'm not kidding you. When I opened my front door and I said, oh my God. And the water was just shooting off of this asphalt. This is no good.
Okay, so that's your motion?
Yep.
Okay. Second?
I'll second that.
Second, in discussion, the arborist report you included, the SWIP you included,
The documenting of the work that's already been
correct,
done.
for the stormwater management?
Yes.
Okay. Any more discussion on that motion? Okay, take a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And abstained? Nobody. So you have a approved project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
Okay, so we're going to move to item number 3. This is a new item. Comments only. 103 Ontario Hills Lane. Hello. This is proposal to construct a new one-story, 3,036 square foot single-family residence and a 722 square foot detached three-car garage on a 42,123 square foot vacant lot located in the Hillside Design District. The proposed total of 3,759 square feet is 76% of the guideline floor-to-lot area ratio. A total of 1,097 cubic yards of grading is proposed, which includes 232 cubic yards of cut, 99 cubic yards of fill under the building footprint, and 463 cubic yards of cut and 303 cubic yards of fill on the site. 2 trees are proposed to be removed. This parcel was created as a result of a 9-lot subdivision, which was approved by the Planning Commission on April 28, 2005. This project requires compliance with a Planning Commission Resolution 03205. If you could introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Bill Wolf with Pacific Architects.
Welcome.
Jack Maxwell, owner of the property.
More welcome.
Do you want me to walk them through it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah. So you've seen some of these lots. Some of you are familiar with this lot. These lots up here on Ontario Hills Lane. Here's Ontario Road. And a public road comes off of it. Ontario Hills Lane ends in a cul-de-sac. And it's this parcel that is next to the Adobe right now currently. So there's an existing home here, one under construction, and 2 built up here. So the rest are empty lots.
Is this one under construction, or is that
No,
completed? It's
this is
completed
the
now?
one under construction.
Wow.
That's been completed for some time, yeah. Yeah, yes, yeah, exactly. So, south exposure, of course, on the back. The idea was to get kind of yard back in the back there and get the drive and hide the garage, tuck it back into the back. Nice rolling 1-acre lot, very gentle slope that we have. I'll go to the site plan because that's a little easier to see what's going on there. Okay. So we have entry, just a small pilaster, kind of an entry element there that drives back down. And, fire department requires that we're 16 feet to within 150 feet per our hose length. So we're going to narrow it down to 12 whenever we can. House kind of situates here, single story, Spanish style to kind of tie in with the existing adobe there. Smooth plaster, 2-piece mission tile, nice divided light windows and doors. Anyway, pad kind of level out a pad area here, create a little drop, sort of tuck the garage back down into a little niche here, so the pad comes down and then slopes down to a lower level here. So the garage is actually quite a bit lower, by 5 or 6 feet from the finished floor of the house there, 6 feet actually. Yard.
The property actually crowns a little bit here.
I'm going to tuck this line, take this grade back into here and have a little bit of a slope there. At this point, very little retaining, kind of rock stack retaining, very natural sort of feel to the site. Single story home, fairly simple layout. We're 76% of our floor area, even though that's a guideline. We're an acre lot, so we don't need to really abide by it, but we're way under that. Entry porch, living, dining, sort of our functions, family functions facing the backyard, master bedroom facing the backyard, and the views. A little bit of view of the yard itself, not really much ocean. The houses below kind of screen, and the trees and planting kind of screen any views we'd have of ocean. Single-story garage, again, kind of tucked down into the site there. I'm going to use this one because it's a little more, it's the same elevation, just a little prettier shading on it is all. Kind of help show you the reliefs and things. Of course, this is the detached garage, which is sitting by itself on the property. But anyway, this is the entry that you drive up to and see. Again, the garage is tucked back around the back. You wouldn't see it from the front. and that's this is showing the difference in elevation there between the house and the garage. That's our east elevation, so you'll drive along that to get to the garage, and then step up from the garage into the house from the back. Real simple, again, exposed rafters, timber, two-piece mission tile, smooth plaster, copper caps on the chimneys. It'll be probably a clad window and door with a wood interior. We'll use some period style iron fixtures, the typical Spanish, and nothing really too overstated in height either. We're 8'6" on our garage. We're 17 to the ridge there, which is to the ridge. I think we've got some plates that are 12. That's our tallest plate, which is in the master. And we're trying to play with elevations. We've got the family room, dining room, living room area a little lower than the main family and kitchen, which is a little lower than the master suite. So we're kind of playing with some elevations there on the roof.
The exterior walls are all proposed to be 12 inches thick.
Yeah,
so we'll have a nice recess.
Deep
in
reveals.
our windows, and it'll be a sort of a typical Mediterranean feel.
Deep shadow lines.
Very nice.
Anything else for your presentation?
I think you think of anything, Jack?
Okay.
Not until I hear
Your questions. Yeah. We hope you like it. Thank you very much.
Okay, so
Well, I will say something that I've built a number of houses in Santa Barbara, and I like a single-story house. My wife likes a single-story house. And we like sort of a traditional floor plan. Bill mentioned a simple floor plan, but a couple of the houses that I've done, one I did in Montecito, it was that way, and yet it was a very, very easy living house because it was all single story, and that one had two wings with master bedroom and two bedrooms on one side and then two on the other side of the kitchen and the floor plan. But it rather than a lot of the floor plans that you see that are done for entertaining purposes or somewhat convoluted, this is sort of straightforward that we all grew up with.
So at this point, I'll open up public comment. I don't see anybody in the audience. I don't have any slips. Is there any letters in the file? So at this point, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for their questions. You mentioned two trees. Can you point out where the trees were removed?
Let's go back to the site plan there. Actually, there's one here, which is in the driveway area. We're trying to kind of keep, and this is an olive. There's some olives up in there. So that one, if we can relocate it, great. If not, we'll probably...
I think that this one probably will relocate pretty nicely, and we're, depending on what happens over the next year with it, we're going to try to prune it. We'd like to have a nice olive here, and then maybe some olives down at the driveway.
We have a grouping of peppers here and a grouping of peppers there, and I think this is the one that we had sort of figured would be, well, it's got to be demoed there. So.
Yeah, this, I think we're...
Probably three there, though, then, that one as well. So those two and that one there. The rest at this point, our significant trees is an oak down here, is an oak here, olive, and then the rest it's a pretty open lot.
Do you have any information about the entry or any fencing or anything?
About what we're doing? I don't have any details yet, but it'll probably be a short pilaster, 5 or so feet tall. The walls will probably be 42 or something. I did keep them quite a ways back. This is that 10 by 20, the little dashed line there for the viewing angles there, for safety coming in and out of the driveway. So I'm actually pulled way back. I'm 20 feet off of the right-of-way with that. But I think it's going to be, again, very low-key, low-profile. These will probably be a couple of 42-inch high pilasters, which will come back in with some details on.
The entrance to Ontario Hills has some real nice rock work. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but basically
Yeah.
Basically, we're going to try to sort of keep in that genre, but in a lot more subdued and smaller way.
There's going to be any gates?
Don't have any proposed gate.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Jim.
I have a question on your elevations. Everything's a hip, but this is really nice, with the way you scalp the plaster for the tile, maybe roll the tile over.
Yeah.
Were you thinking maybe of picking that up in a couple other places?
As a matter of fact, I haven't talked to Bill about that.
Oh, okay.
But here in the garage,
This is the garage over here.
I was thinking about, and I have a little trouble here with my elevation, but I was thinking about doing that. I think this is the elevation here. This faces the house. We're going to do that same thing here. And
So
then,
it'd be this that gable line there.
yeah, exactly right. And then we come out here with a hip. This is the
That's the bedroom and the bath
that's
there,
bedroom.
yeah.
In the rear, here, I was going to do the
Master.
same thing. Where, and there's different ways of doing that scallop. I like it a little more severe scallop, rather than something that's sort of straight up and down. I feel that that's a lot more pleasing. So there are two more areas that I'd like to do that with.
Yeah,
And I think they're ideal areas for suited, and it simplifies the roof plan too.
Questions?
Thank you for bringing that up.
I have a question. Sure.
Brian?
The front door, you have the roof coming down. Does the roof go back here? Or
It's actually all in this, I'll refer to it here, Brian, so
Oh,
you can
nice.
see. That's the slope of the roof.
Yeah,
And right
that's
now,
all.
we show it as kind of a stone element in efforts to try and make it feel sort of as a contiguous element. I brought the stone up. There's still
Oh,
trying
I
to
see.
decide whether or not
see.
that's the best way to do it or not. I don't know.
Okay.
But that stone, the entry
I
pushes
understand.
out. Yeah.
I understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what Mr. Zimmerman said, that we're going to eliminate this and plaster it, and something that I haven't talked to Bill about, but I've explored a couple of well,
I'm finding out a lot of this is-
frustrated architects.
this is like an office
In my
meeting.
next slide. But I've seen a couple of areas where they've cut this rock off and they've taken it in an arch form as this is, and then I prefer to have the plaster. We just sort of left it like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Fred.
I just have a question on the windows that face west, I guess it is, and on the facade that faces west.
Yes.
Did you share that with the neighbor that's below you? Did you have a conversation with that neighbor?
Yes.
Okay. And what's their any concern about where the windows are?
Overall, they like the house. Their house really orients more towards Ontario Road, and although I think that there may be a dining room that is facing our westerly.
Yeah, there appears to be a couple of windows
Yeah.
that face to your side.
This is.
It's actually this side, Jack, here.
Yeah,
This is the side that faces him.
the west side.
Well, it's the east elevation.
What were you talking about?
You're
Talking
talking
about
about
the neighbor
the
below.
lower, yeah, which is this one here, yeah.
Okay.
Is this,
this is what they-
this is actually,
Isn't this the one where because this backs up to our?
I think he's right.
It's the one. I think it's this one. 'cause
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
this one
dining
here.
room.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
dining room.
'Cause it's
Because that was the
garage
window
doors
I was.
garage doors face.
west.
Yeah, I was a little concerned about just because it appears that it
I
might look
saw.
into the windows in the house below, and if they're happy.
no, he actually, his driveway runs along that side.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
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 So I would.
Well, they were actually happy
Okay.
that we were doing a single-story house, and tried to convince me that I needed to do a house that was more of a ranch house. So I'd rather go with Mediterranean.
And these are sliding glass doors.
No,
Bifold.
Sort of the latest and
Latest.
greatest bifold
Yeah.
that will
Those big
open
ones
up.
that open the whole thing.
Yeah, where you have one door that's an active door, even if you don't bifold them. Brings the indoor, outdoor
Bernie, you have some questions?
I'm just, so I know the neighbor's here and you're driving into your garage, and then this will be, so you won't really be imposing on them because you're way over in this area.
Yeah, and their driveway also is, with the landscaping, it'll probably be 15, 18 feet from ours, so it'll be a heavily landscaped area between the two areas.
Yeah, no, I don't have any more questions.
His driveway comes down to here, and I think the garage, is that his garage down there?
Yeah.
He actually drives down to the garage down here.
I have a question.
Yes, Brian.
What are these on the fireplace, and then I see them again on the eaves?
Yeah, we were trying to find some kind of a detail there. Here on the fireplace, it's a plaster, either a plaster or a tile detail. We have yet to
A
kind of-
tile,
And this
you
is
know.
that's an actual passage
Screen window? Like
Yeah.
Which is that?
These are the two that are actually. Or are we going to do? We're going to do that, or the same thing? These are the bathroom.
Yeah, no, those are decorative tile elements.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, they're tile.
Yeah.
I thought.
And then that's tile too?
Yeah, those are tile.
It's not much. It's
Yeah,
just,
I think we're still
They
trying
need
to
a
figure out whether some are going to be penetration and some are tile. So
You know,
we're not sure.
I've done it both ways, and the little pipes that come out,
yeah,
you know,
tiles,
they're not
pieces.
really vents.
Yeah.
They can
They can be,
be.
yeah.
I'm just
They
wondering
can
what
be.
you're doing there, that's all.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is sort of, you know, play with it a little bit, and we haven't come to any
Kind of,
conclusion. But
yeah.
you know, I see it one way in some houses, and I really like
Yeah.
that. And
Bill, is this
needs to corral me,
is this
so.
property in a high fire area?
It is.
So you have to be concerned about the venting
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
venting
Yeah.
and sprinklers.
Yeah.
We also plan to
Okay.
make it as green as possible with, if we do add a pool to it, we'll put in, you know, the solar heating, and I've looked into the photovoltaic, I've looked into the photovoltaic systems, and the house lays out real well towards the rear of where a pool would be because of the slope down to the rear yard. And one question that I had regarding the rear area is, we would maybe put the pool in here, slope at some point in time, regrade, and then put the photovoltaic system on the ground rather than on the roofs, which I think looks a lot better, and it's not seen from any of the other houses. And then here we were thinking of course, leaving all of the oak trees and a couple of olives here, but actually doing more of an orchard down here. I don't know whether you have any feeling on that or direction that you can give me.
Can you explain there's 1,000 cubic yards of grade moving around, it says on here?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that's actually real accurate. When we kind of add and subtract, it's pretty minimal. We're cutting down 2 feet. You know, here's the grade line for this coming through. It comes down here and wraps back up here, and we're cutting it back to here. So we're creating kind of a flat pad on a very gentle slope, and I think I really need to kind of reanalyze that cut and fill when I look at it, because I'm not sure the numbers are correct.
Okay. The other thing is that we have to comply with the Planning Commission resolution, and it's only a couple of sentences here. It says basically the development shall be approved by the review board for consistency with design guidelines, these conditions of approval, and the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. The new residences in the subdivision shall be designed and built in a manner that will not conflict or result in any potential adverse impact on the existing historic adobe residence and cottage on the property. And that's the Planning Commission resolution. And the reason why I brought that up is this is the closest one to the adobe. So I just wanted the comments to, consider that.
So a question in that vein. I assume the color of this house is going to be tan, white. Do you have an idea of what you think you're going to be? Just given the color of the adobe. Smith.
Yeah, he's got some color samples there.
We can put it on the...
Okay, excuse me. Yeah, I just got to get...
It's kind of a mottled finish, Fred, sort of a mottled, but tans, darker tones.
It's a patina finish that
Yeah.
was... Here's another house that has the same patina finish.
This actually, I think, even looks lighter than it is in reality, but
Yeah, here gives you a little bit of a close patina. That
antique. It's not definitely not white.
In response to your question a minute ago about how you might deal with the pool, I think you were looking
back
over
down
here.
here.
You know, if you stand out here, the windows on the Adobe appear to be not used a whole lot because they're little small windows. And I like the fact that you're holding on to the oak tree and this. And, you know, down here there's another house that's right up on the property line. So I think if, you put your pool in here and create your landscape so that it kind of sets up this view corridor out that way and kind of doesn't allow you to have to look at that other house down further will be really quite nice.
This is somewhat screened.
Right.
This right here is actually the older portion of the Adobe, and it's the garage. And
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think he ever uses it.
So I think, where you put the house is perfectly fine.
And one of the originally we were going to try to come down here, but it required some retaining that we wanted not to try to do because we felt that might impact, this whole area.
So one of the other Planning Commission resolution aspects we have to comply with is landscape plan.
Yes.
So I know we're talking about a swimming pool right now. We're talking about grading, and also this Adobe. And I look forward to seeing some landscaping somewhere on a plan, because that's definitely one of the things we have to approve.
I've set up with a landscaper that I like to go through that. So we'll.
Is that person
subject to what you say, we'll have a conceptual landscape plan.
There'll have to be some sort of drawing that documents what we're doing.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
If we can get in on your next agenda, if he's available, we can do that. Or
I think this notion, you were talking about this area right here on the house where the stone meets the plaster, that comes from a part of Spain where that's how they built buildings, and we have plenty of examples, even in our own courthouse,
sure.
where that happens. So I think that's something you might take that as a gesture to look at when you deal with landscaping, so that the rocks in the bowl, and notice there's a whole pile of rocks out there on the site. So I'm going, they're going to use those. That's really cool.
Thank you for mentioning that.
And so I think this notion in your landscape plan of using that kind of integration of the stone and the green before you go to the gold, so to speak, because I don't suspect you're going to put green over this whole site. So this idea of native plants integrated into as you touch the house gets pretty important.
Yeah, we wanted lots of planting area integrated with multiple rocks of different sizes throughout the landscaped area, and even including some of the modest green areas that we're going to do.
Right. So I think that could be pretty attractive,
Yeah.
given the palette you're presenting.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're looking for, you're not ready for any sort of approval according to the agenda. There's still an environmental assessment that needs to be done. Is that true?
Environmental assessment has been completed. What they do need to do is provide Tier 3 stormwater management compliance prior to final approval, and or soils report, but that'll be prior to issuance of a building permit.
Okay. So you're saying we could make a motion for
You could
approval
grant
if we...
a motion
so-
for project design approval, just
Okay.
not final approval.
Can I say one other thing?
Sure.
There is a swale, a substantial swale, and according to the seller of the property and his engineer, this was supposedly to comply with the stormwater requirements.
That was recently installed as part of this?
It was installed as a
subdivision?
part
Done as part
of
of
the
the
overall
subdivision,
project
yeah.
for the benefit of the Adobe, my lot, and the lot next door to me, just to the
I
west.
think what we'll do is try to support that with some findings,
Sure.
whatever information we can get to
Okay.
that would be probably what.
Okay.
designs of the windows and doors and garage doors or any of that with you?
Samples there.
I have a door that I used previously, and it would be somewhat similar to that. I do have pictures of garage doors that I've used before. It'll be 3 separate garage doors, and there'll be 3 segments. And if I had to guess, it would probably be some sort of arched top opening without any lights in it, and it would be plank door.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's kind of I'm wrestling in my head is we've talked about actually modifying roof structures and materials and things. So I'm a little bit reluctant to just go with preliminary or project design approval, not knowing what's going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think what we can do is give very good positive comments. It's a 1-story structure. The only reason why it's here is it's a new house. But I think it's a very good project. We're just missing information right now. Basically, Tier 3, landscaping, the gates, and whatever the roof structure will look like when it's done. Yeah. So I think we probably can just give positive comments and have the applicant come back.
I have a couple little
Go ahead, Brian.
thoughts. Not based, I love the house. I think it's beautiful, but this window here next to this bay window, you might look at, I think that's kind of large to have next to the bay window. I don't know if you want to look at that. And the...
I think that's a toilet. It's a toilet room next
Right.
to a bath, probably. As
So
well.
I don't
but
know.
Yeah, it could be reduced in height for
there
sure.
was something else I saw, but I lost it now.
We'll nail these down.
Yeah, I just clarify what those will be. But that's basically it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fred?
Yeah, I have a comment. I mean, in terms of what you presented, it's perfectly fine. You can go do it tomorrow. But I thought you might want to consider, go to the elevations. I think the master bedroom, this elevation here. Mm-hmm. You might think about it. It might be something interesting to look at. Here you've treated the eave line, and it'd be one of the things I would look at when this comes back is the detail of what that eave looks like and how the tile meets the edge and how you're going to do the gutters or whatever. But this might be an opportunity where you don't necessarily have to follow the same eave detail all around the house. Maybe you treat this eave element around the master bedroom a little bit differently. And I know this side, I think, goes straight back.
Mm-hmm.
This actually is a secondary bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that element, it just seems to me you might want to think about maybe treating that a little bit differently in terms of the eave versus the rest of the house. But
we attempted to do that. This is still going to be a hip. This is the front of the house, and we attempted to do that by protruding it out and raising it up a
little bit. So I think because of that proportion, as you raise it up, it starts to make the effect of that wall different. Because traditionally in this low single-story Mediterranean, the eaves are all relatively low to the ground, so to speak, in the 3 and 12 pitch. And here you've now moved around the house and you've made a higher room, so I think it might give you the opportunity to treat that a little bit differently architecturally. Just something to think about.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments?
I'm sorry, I have one more.
Yes, Brian?
The base of the windows, are you going to have like a slope?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably the best example of it is either the courthouse or the cemetery out in near Montecito, where it actually slopes in on the sides and then up from the bottom.
Okay. Is anybody ready to give some positive comments in a motion fashion? Yes, Bernie.
Continue the project to return to the full board as soon as possible with the final details as discussed, which are the landscaping plan with walls around and the verification that the historic adobe next door is not going to be intruded upon. The Tier 3 compliance has been met. What else?
Well, we can add on to it, but that's a
Okay,
good start.
okay, that's it. I'll make that motion.
Is there anybody-
Oh, and we want to see the materials of the driveway also.
Sure, absolutely. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
As a tie.
Let him have it. It's his first time.
So that's Fred's second. And discussion on that item, I think Bernie got most of it. The drive material I'd be interested in seeing. Landscape plan, swimming pool, if you're going to put a swimming pool in. We'd love to see it now,
Yeah.
if you're going to put it.
We'll wait to see. If it gets hot enough, maybe it'll.
It's hot up there now.
I'd love to see also the entry gates, some
Yeah,
sort of work on that.
detail of that.
And obviously, whatever configuration, the roofs and little modifications that are going to occur that we discussed. So I think that's a good motion.
Maybe some more about the stone type and work and configuration.
The more he brings, the better he'll be. I mean, if he has a Tier 3 level plan and he has all his details and finishes, we could possibly give him final
Yeah.
if everything works out. But any more?
I just have a question, Mr. Chair, to staff. The applicant owner indicated that he did talk to the neighbors and they had a understanding of how this house is going to look. I assume that goes in the records so that a year from now we don't have a problem. Thank you.
There's no requirement to submit anything. I mean, the fact that he stated at this meeting is kind of on the record.
Good neighbor policy.
Good neighbor
And
policy.
that neighbor would have been
Noticed. And signs out, and hand notice too.
Okay. Any more discussion on the motion? Take a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed and abstained. Motion carries unanimously. Good project.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
And don't forget your soils report, too. Well, maybe.
Yes.
So we're going to move to item number 4, 3134 Lucinda Lane. This is a proposal to construct 961 square feet of residential additions to an existing two-story, 1,460 square foot single-family residence. The proposed addition includes the conversion of the existing 636 square foot garage to habitable area, construction of a new 400 square foot two-car garage, and a new 325 square foot second story addition above. The new 107 square foot second floor deck is proposed above the new garage. A total of 29 cubic yards of grading is proposed. The proposal will result in 2,821 square foot 2,821 square foot single-family residence located on a 6,891 square foot lot and is 97% of the maximum floor-to-lot area ratio. Action may be taken, it says, and there's a Tier 2 level requirement before we can grant final. If you could introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Brian Pollard, architect.
Welcome. And
The owners, Chris Allen and Jerry Jacobs.
your presentation, sir.
I think to start out would be to kind of orient everybody to where the project's located. Foothill is this road right here. You can see where it's labeled here. And then Calgary is right, the intersection on the Foothill is right down here. And then it comes into Lucinda Lane, which is this loop here. So the only way to enter into this neighborhood is through this street, and it loops around and comes back out. And so as far as seeing it from Foothill, you can't see the neighborhood from there. I don't know if anybody's been back there before, but it was the first time I'd been back in that neighborhood. Basically, a lot of all the same homes, basically a couple of mirror of the floor plan, but all the variations of basically the same architecture. I kind of have called it kind of a contractor's modern split level. is back there. And so I can give you some orientation with the photos. This number one would be, this is the project site, as you can see, that's highlighted there. This 3172 is that house, and very few, anything has been done in this neighborhood. So this one here looks like they've come in and facelifted it and gotten rid of all the T111 siding and stucco that is on most of the other homes. And so it cleaned it up nicely, and then they put some stone on the fireplace over here. So it's probably one of the most attractive, well, I mean, just cleaned up as far as that particular type of structure. It's basically a box of 30 feet by, I'm not even sure the dimensions, but it's a 2-story kind of a shoebox with a roof. Not to say anything about it other than that it just has it's lacking a little bit of character. I think this presents a pretty nice curb appeal to it. So that's that project. This one here is the neighboring project right here, looking from the street, looking at it this way. Actually, this way. The driveway's over here. So that's this house. No, I guess it is. It's looking. Okay, so it is looking at it right here. Okay, and then this one here is the project that we're looking at here. So you've got the driveway, the house, then this is another piece of that house looking down this way. So this is dropping down. This is that home, and then this is it. The whole facade of that house. And this is across the street. This is one of these across the street. This is another one across the street there. This here is, this is basically, let's get on the site plan. I think this will help. Go to the site plan, the next sheet. So here's the neighboring building, footprint of it. Basically, this view is standing in the existing driveway, looking back up at this house. And this here is standing in the driveway, looking at this entrance here, which is kind of midway into this house is where the existing entrance is. So you see this retaining wall? Basically, that's where that's dashed in there. That's this retaining wall. All right, and then there's just a couple of overall photos from looking up the street, as you can see here, and then looking back down the street. And then you got an overall that kind of helps a little bit about how the street kind of drops down this way. Right, exactly. All right, so basically it's a 97% FAR, and I know at first reaction to the FAR is the project could be too big. And this does not mean that it's a bad project. In fact, it is good for the client, and based on the neighbors, it enhances the neighborhood. It's not a McMansion. I feel, it's suitable for the neighborhood. Got written consent from all 10 closest neighbors. We went out with the owner, walked around to all the neighbors around, and basically have writing out what the proposal was, the square footage, presented the drawings to them, actually stood there at the front door with them, and there was 10 neighbors, which I can show you right here is the highlighted in pink are all the neighbors that are signing that they were comfortable with the project, they thought it was a good project, they thought it would enhance the neighborhood. So that we actually just went for these 10. It wasn't that other people were not happy happy with it, but everybody we went through, they were very positive about it. The other thing was this 3210. It kind of kicks up back over here. So they were, we went up on their balcony and looked over the project to make sure that there was no issues with any views that would be affected by these neighbors up in here. So I thought that was very positive to get neighbors' input by that. And so this FAR is allowable for the city, and hopefully with the additional information that was required, it will convince you it's appropriate and a nice project for this neighborhood. And I just wanted to add, I was looking through the SFPD guidelines, and one of the things under purpose, it says if FRI regulations inform homeowners of the maximum allowable home size, homes designed smaller than maximum FAR can still be incompatible depending on design. Therefore, design is just as important as size. I know you all know this, but it was something I felt like it was useful to bring forward since we're dealing with the FAR at what it is. So hopefully you'll recognize by what I'm trying to bring, with some animation to the form, to this 1960s, contractor's modern, and kind of understand some of the challenges I had. So one of the things it was kind of a challenging project because the reason for the owners wanting to kind of add to it was primarily first of all, was this driveway is kind of an L shape, so you turn into the turn into the garage with this retaining wall that's running along this way. So backing up was really kind of a pain. So you'd have to back up, turn this corner, and back yourself out of this driveway. So that really wasn't really suitable for them. And actually this area, all the garages, because it is kind of a box, this garage area is 630 square feet. And so actually the conversion is that we don't need that much space to convert because this wasn't really where they wanted to add to it. But, it would have been nice if it was 400 square feet, which we were replacing for the garage, and the FAR wouldn't be as big. But that being said, this is converted to livable space, the 630 square feet on the lower level. And we're just kind of creating a little steady area and keeping the washer and dryer that's just down at the stairs. So the challenging part is trying to kind of create some sense of entry, a pedestrian-friendly entrance to the property. I think what's kind of too bad is that this entrance is all the way back beyond the driveway. You step up to it and it's over to the side, right? So you really never see an entrance. You're walking up the driveway, as you can see through the photos. So what I was trying to accomplish with this addition was to give a sense of entry by separating, kind of having these stepping stones that kind of step up to kind of an entry breezeway that passes through between the garage and the existing structure, and bring them up to the existing stairs that are there, the entry stairs. And so that was is 7 feet between the garage and the existing. So you didn't want to squeeze that down too much. This is a 20-foot garage, and then our setback is right there at 6 feet. So that kind of started the process of design. And as you can see, I think this is important too. This is the existing line of the existing structure, and then there's that breezeway, and then this is where the garage starts. So this begins to, I think, establish some kind of sense of entrance to this property. And then trying to get some order to how these second-story addition is kind of being placed over the existing, and kind of trying to create some interest. Bring some kind of pedestrian activity to the street front, which is kind of bringing a balcony area, so that it kind of gives some character and also gives some depth to it. So that's kind of how the architecture was starting to take shape. And so, as before, this shows the lower level with the garage. And then upstairs was basically they just wanted to take these two 10 by 10 bedrooms and create kind of a family den space. They basically use one room right now, and they go upstairs, they watch television up there, and she does a lot of sewing, and so they wanted to combine a space that they could kind of do all those functions up in this area where they are accustomed to kind of spending most of their time, and then creating this guest bedroom over in this area. And so this is where I think some of the order was important, that this wall kind of became here. If I moved it over, if I wanted to take some of that square footage out, it kind of takes that where everything kind of lines up with it. So basically this becomes the guest, and you can see where the addition is. The addition is right here. So there's 325 square feet of second-story addition, and then 400 square feet of garage, and then the conversion of 636 square feet, which is that existing garage area. So, as you can see, this is the pitch of the existing roof. This is what is being proposed here. And basically some elevations all the way around. Meeting solar, no modifications required. Meeting open yard. Kind of stepping off of this side yard setback with the first and second story. So that's pretty much it. 8-foot plates. The height of the addition is no higher than the existing height. So, yep.
Okay, thank you for your presentation.
Sure.
I'd like to bring it to public comment. I don't see anybody in the audience. Do we have any letters in the file? The applicant did bring us a form with signatures of neighbors, and I'd like to submit that to our folder, if that's okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for their questions. One question that I had in looking at the floor plan, specifically the second floor, just a question to staff. There's 2 existing decks over here, and I know we're not touching them. Are they both permitted?
Yes,
Okay.
we did do that research in a plan check.
Okay. And cantilever, this cantilever here?
Yes, it is.
Is that going to be steel?
It is going to be steel.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have questions?
I have a question about the garage area. Looking at the site plan, you know, you do have a corridor you're going up now. Did you ever consider moving the garage back further and then eliminating a lot of the corridor, and then you don't have that shed sitting in the front?
I kind of like the shed, but this grade kind of kicks up a little bit. So if we did start moving this back, I wouldn't probably want to come all the way back with this. The addition needs to happen here.
Didn't you say there was a retaining wall there too?
There's an existing retaining wall that's dashed in there, so there will be some retainage here. This is like 4 feet, 4 or 5 feet of retaining that's on the back side of this. But the addition, the second story addition, is, of course, starting here and coming out to here. And that has to do with those 2 bedrooms. So you'd almost have to move that second story back with it, I believe.
More questions, Jim?
No.
Okay. Brian, Holden, you okay? Okay. Fred?
Yeah, I have. Let's see. First of all, is that a little mark just to?
That's the
Okay.
section mark.
I was thinking that maybe it was some little vertical announcement for the address or something. And then kind of following up on Jim's comment about, you know, moving it back, whatever. But I having been out there and looked at it, I realized, you know, that's going to be pretty problematic. But was there any discussion about making this entry, either enclosing it or putting a gate here or a door or just a breezeway?
Well, I'm certainly open to to that, I think, as you can see, the challenge was trying to bring this
Right.
in and then create some sense of entry closer to the front.
Okay.
And so I certainly would be open to something that would be kind of an interesting gate, maybe an open gate kind of.
And then I don't recall, down here at the bottom on the photograph she's provided, that tree, is that tree on the property or is that in the parkway?
It is right here, right there.
That's right, okay, it's that tree right there, okay, understand. And then these two windows here are existing.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
And so if you go and look at the elevation, what I was trying to figure out was your treatment right here. So is this paneling or wood, I assume that's wood siding of some sort, is that even with this stucco? In other words,
Yes,
it's in
it
the
is.
same plane?
Yeah.
So have you thought about how you're going to treat that break between here and the stucco?
I was thinking a redwood, just as a redwood water table.
Okay.
Give it, let that siding rest on it and then come out a little bit, good thick, and then come up with the stucco back behind it.
Okay. And then you've indicated that these two windows, I think it's both those windows open into a study. Did you have a discussion with your client about perhaps, and I know that's kind of south-facing, so it's going to get a lot of sun, but given the fact it's going to be a study, and there is some view across the street, some consideration with your client about changing those windows a little bit?
Yeah, they would be, I'm sure, open to it. The study is something that they felt like, well, what are we going to do with this garage now? It's
Okay.
kind of like, well, let's put a study down there. So we really didn't think too much into it. They'd probably not like to have to spend additional money to. There's a lot of landscaping that's kind of getting in the way, but certainly I'm open to.
Okay. That was just a question. I didn't know what they were thinking. And then right here, you have this little element that comes around, and then I was trying to follow it on the plan, and I couldn't figure out where it was. Is that this piece?
That's this.
Okay, so does a railing stop right here and go back, or does a railing come over there and go back? I guess that's what I was confused about.
Right.
So
I was trying to. Let's use this. I was just. You're right. This
show
would be
it there.
more like railing here. I was trying to get that to
Okay.
kind of pass through as just an element, and turn that because it's kind of a dead space there. So this
Gotcha.
plan is not correct. I'd probably rather see that. I felt like it needed see where that edge of the existing. I wanted that to pass
Right.
by there, not stop.
kind of fly over there.
Fly over that a little bit, and then just bring the rail
And
back.
and then back here, I realize what you're intending to do here, and I don't have a big problem with that. But my suspicion is this is going to get really complicated in there, and I'm not quite sure. I clearly understand how that roof gets resolved in there, but maybe that's something you
I
can
got a
look at.
section here that helps a little bit with that. This is the flat roof, so it does this size, this width does fit underneath those eaves, and it does become a flat roof, 2% off to the back.
Okay. And then I know on a lot of these homes up there, including this home, the outriggers come out, and I didn't really look in detail at the house in that respect, but I know over time these really get beat up. And so I've seen some folks cut them back, push them back under the eave. Other folks have put a cap on them to keep them from deteriorating, et cetera. Have you thought about how because I notice you're introducing that same element on this new piece. So have you thought about how you're going to treat that?
Well, I agree that I think there's probably some kind of flashing if we do keep that exposed and just go and cap all the rest of them,
Okay.
or cut it back at the eave and just keep a consistency there between the two.
And then my last question, is your inclination that there'll probably be a steel column here? Is that why you put the two separated rather than one panel?
I was trying to get a little order with this. If I looked at one garage door, and with the weight it just seemed like this element then reads much better this way. And so there is going to be probably a post that would be much better, but I don't know if it's steel or wood, but there's definitely
Whatever,
gonna be a
there's
steel.
some structural support
Yeah.
coming down
Yeah.
for this wall. Okay. That's my questions. Thank you.
Anybody else with questions? Okay, so we'll move to comments. How's the board feeling generally? I mean, the one thing that Brian spoke about, which we didn't even ask he knew we were going to talk about FARs, so he came prepared. He did an analysis. I think it was third as the FAR and third as square footage in the neighborhood, or of the ones that were listed there.
Right.
How is the board feeling about the overall bulk mass and scale of this project? Denise?
Interestingly, from the elevations, it doesn't look like it's growing that much. It's bizarre to me, but as I look at it, it all seems to make sense. Yeah, I don't really have a problem with it because I see what he's trying to do. At first I have a little bit of a problem with this roof line going in the opposite direction of everything else.
I was trying to break this consistency of this. If I went the other way with it, it'd be just another plane that would go across there. Try to really bring some interest into this contemporary design.
Yeah, it just sort of, it seemed a little tacked on there, and then because it doesn't cover both garage doors, it's a bit awkward for me, but I don't know if anyone else feels that way about it.
Yeah. Can I follow up on your
Sure.
comment, Denise? One might look at it, and I know you're dealing with budget and every square foot counts and when you're trying to deal with the cost of building these things. But one of the things that kind of struck me was this issue of the dilemma of having two garage doors versus one garage door. And maybe this, Denise, gets at your concern. One might think about making that top element just a little bit wider, let it go past the midpoint, and create a single garage door. Because I see what you're trying to do, and I think that the folks that live on the upper side of this house probably will appreciate the fact that you've articulated the roof line so that the second story addition sits back in towards the center of the lot. So I think that's perfectly acceptable. But one might think about playing with that, what is that, the west elevation a little bit. And I know that may be a square footage consideration in terms of cost, but
And FAR.
and the FAR. So, but maybe you have to squeeze it one way or the other. That might work. I think that also what'll be very interesting is how you treat the wood to the stucco on that first level, and then how you ultimately resolve how this piece actually meets the existing piece. I think that's the challenge with this approach. But I think overall, I kind of like it.
You're okay, comfortable with the bulk mass
Yeah,
scale?
given the circumstances, this is probably one of those examples where, in my view, we could live with the floor area ratio issue.
Okay.
I kind of like your way of breaking it up. I think there tends to be a blandness with these houses, and I think you kind of made them interesting with this kind of different roof element. I don't have a problem with the two garage doors. The only thing I'm looking at on the west elevation, these two little windows, but I think overall I can approve it.
Okay. Jim, how are you feeling with bulk mass scale?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I just get a feeling that there maybe is another way to handle that.
The connection?
Yeah. It just seems kind of awkward. Whether you maybe put a gable there or bring this through, or
Brian, are you gonna try to vault this space?
Yeah.
So you're gonna get a line there, and this is gonna be a lower piece
like
anyway.
flat.
Yeah. So yeah, there's probably 10 different ways of doing it. So I mean, just keep an open mind and keep looking for the great one, the great idea. Bernie, how are you doing with bulk mass scale?
I don't think I have enough information yet to say that I'm okay with the size, bulk, and scale. One thing in particular is the exterior deck that faces the street. To me, it's not counted in the square footage at all, and it adds more living space, and it gives a stronger presence and if we're going to allow something this huge on this street that's 500 plus feet bigger than anything else, it's the second biggest house. From what I've been seeing driving around, I've looked at some of the 95% projects that we've approved, and I don't like the way that they're looking. So maybe you could convince me by giving me 3 dimensions or reducing the front, because there's already decks in the back, right? There's already 2 big decks in the back, so I don't really buy why another 3rd deck along with all the extra square footage.
I'm going to follow up on your question or your comments in a second, but the one thing that we did notice, you said second largest, which kind of, me and Denise kind of were, I thought it was 3rd. We're looking at 2 totally different charts here, where the address on this one is ranked 3rd. This one is ranked 2nd, so I don't know the difference between the 2 here. I mean, there's obviously...
They're different by FAR. Let's see. No, there was a difference. I read it. I forget what it was.
Yeah, these seem to be 2 different ones.
They're the same thing, just done.
There's 2 different charts here. So there's a discrepancy between whether it's the 2nd or 3rd,
Well,
correct?
This .30 must not be 1, so it should be the 2nd.
I see what you're saying.
So
This
that-
one is
so
miss...
47, 41, which is... So that somehow found its way up there with the spreadsheet.
And the same thing with this. Same thing with this one. Correct. So it automatically formats itself, right? And it formatted wrong.
Mr. Chair,
Okay.
just
Yes.
provide some additional clarification. There are 2 forms. One is by FAR, and one's by actual lot area.
Correct.
Yeah,
So-
we know there's 2 sets.
Okay.
But there's still 2 different charts. But I...
No matter how you look at it, it's still something you should
Yeah, so
pay
Bernie,
attention
you said you
to.
don't have enough information. What specific information do you need to better evaluate?
Well, for example, the front deck.
Yeah?
Are there other houses in the neighborhood that have that kind of a configuration, or will this be the first?
Yeah, this would be the first. It's pretty much the first addition in this neighborhood of 25-plus homes. So since 1960, there hasn't really been any additions in this neighborhood. So this is kind of the beginning of maybe the evolution of the future of adding to the, it's 2,400 square feet.
That's exactly correct. I agree. So whatever we do, if we design a good project that's compatible, then the next 3 that come up this year, will follow whatever you're doing.
I think the only intention that I was doing with that balcony was to try to introduce some kind of way to be out front in the front yard with the sidewalks that are out there, interact with the neighbor in a way that you can be out there, say hello to them. Otherwise, it's just it's a facade out there. So that was the idea behind it. We could lose it. It also, I think, gives some depth to all this flatness that comes across there. It gives some positive, some nice shading that would cast across there. It also kind of is a form of kind of introducing where the entrance to the building was. That was my intentions to it. But.
Okay. So I haven't chimed in. I think the bulk mass and scale is generally acceptable to me. I know it's 97%, so what we like to see when we're going between 85 and 100 is something that's a superior piece of architecture. So, and you're only modifying part of the house, so you have to wrestle with making it match up with what's there. But there's been a couple of comments about the roof lines here, and the garage is underneath, about 1 door versus 2 doors. And your garage is only a minimum 20 by 20 garage. And when you put 2 doors in there, it gets really tight. I would like to see a design that have a 1-car garage, at least to look at. And also Jim's thoughts of, this connection piece gets a little complicated and fussy in there, and there may be another option there. It won't affect the overall massing of the building, but I think it will probably be a better piece of architecture once you explore some of those issues. So is anybody willing to make a motion for project design approval, or are we looking for another go-around of tweaking some of the features on this building?
Mr. Chair,
Sure.
I'd like to try a motion
Well, go ahead.
to continue this project back to full board indefinitely, and for the applicant to study the garage doors and the upper deck and the guest bedroom area above and its shed roof, and attempt to come up with some, perhaps a modified design that might integrate this addition a little better into the whole.
Okay, so that's a motion. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded. Discussion. I think it'd be important to include the majority of the board, I believe, is find the bulk mass and scale acceptable. So we're not saying tear off part of your building right now.
Yeah, right. That'd be in the
I'll
motion.
include that. Yes, I'll include that in the motion.
Is there more discussion on the motion and what other items that we might want to have the architect look at?
Brian, I think that this issue of the balcony, personally, I don't have a big problem with the balcony, and I understand this idea of giving some freedom, a third dimension to that front facade. But if you talk with your client, maybe there's another way to do that third dimension and not have a balcony. I don't know how important the balcony is to your client. They may be kind of folks that like to spend a lot of time outside, so that may be fairly important. But, there may be another way to deal with that aspect of creating some dimension on the front facade without actually doing a balcony. The idea of maybe talking to him about the windows in that study with a combination of some shading element to put some shade on those south face windows, so maybe that opens it up a little bit more. Maybe there's a way to explore how that element comes across the house.
So there was a lot of information in there that isn't necessarily going to be put into this motion, but there's a lot of good information.
Is the balcony something that I should look at as eliminating? Are people for that with the idea of trying to connect with the neighborhood in a way, or
do you want to take a straw?
One thing to think about, for me, it's the combination of the size of the house proposed and the fact that the balcony's pretty big. Maybe it could be a little smaller. I mean, just the whole statement of everything altogether may be pretty strong.
Jim?
I like the balcony, but I think it could be smaller. I think it's great that people can sit out there and instead of sitting in their backyard. But I think, if it could become a little smaller and work it in with your design, I think would be great.
Brian, I think I wouldn't disagree with that at all. If it was maybe smaller, and whenever you bring a plane, a second floor plane, that makes everything underneath it darker. So one of the things is reducing the balcony and maybe taking some of Fred's ideas of not only trellises here, but there may be some entry trellis that would lighten that path up, but still introduce it as this is the way to come in. I think that could work, and it would it would reduce your balcony, and I think it could work. So, is there any other comments that we want to roll into the motion? I think we've given the architect a lot of.
I was just wondering if the garage door thing, the one or the two, are we in agreement? Are we trying to suggest that he change what he has?
To study that.
To study?
Since Glenn said it's rather small, two garage doors does seem kind of chopped up to this, considering the size of the garage. So.
Okay.
I'd like to see that. And I'd like to see what that looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, one more question for me. Is it that I kind of like this? Of course, I did it. And I worked really hard to separate those two structures in a way to be able to turn that roof in a direction that made sense to me. But do you think there's also study the idea, but also possibly convince you that this is a good approach to it? Is that another? I mean,
I like it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, again, I don't have a problem of those two pieces coming together. I think that maybe what we're looking for is a little more information, some more detailed sections cut through there so we really understand, I think, Jim's point about how that lower roof meets the existing. If we had some more information, maybe a little perspective sketch that would help us understand how that's really all coming together. I think that's the thing that may be bothering us.
Sure, and I'll look at the other options like Jim was.
Yeah. And if you like this idea, I mean, I don't think we're telling you to change it. Just make sure you feel like it's going to work the way you think it's going to work. That's all. So, okay. So we've heard comments. Everybody understand the motion? Is it indefinite continuance?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll take a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And abstentions? None. The motion carries unanimously.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And at this point, we have no more business. We will stand adjourned. Thank you.